Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. In this particular episode, I'd like to talk about the Convention Against Torture and how sometimes you have to fight a few battles to win the war. Let me give you the facts of a case that was just overturned at the Circuit Court of Appeals. It went to the immigration judge, and basically these were the facts in sum. There was a person, a Mexican citizen, who essentially worked with the drug cartels down in Mexico. He took basically $30,000 of methamphetamines and owed the cartel this money and did not pay them back. He came to the United States. He worked with the DEA as an informant. He went back to Mexico at some later point and hid out basically at his uncle's house. Later it was determined his uncle was murdered and his body displayed on the street. And then this particular Mexican citizen escaped again to the United States and applied for, he didn't win or couldn't apply for asylum and withholding. Probably the time that he had come was, or applied, was past a year of when he entered, so he applied for Convention Against Torture. The immigration judge flat out denied the case, said that there's not more than a 50% chance that he'll get tortured, that the fact that the Mexican government is working to stop gang violence and the cartels is shows that it is unlikely he will be tortured, that the purported death of his uncle should not necessarily concern him because his uncle's wife or his widow remained alive and they didn't kill her. So I know that this sounds unbelievable that this particular immigration judge would rule in such a manner, but she did. And she ordered him to be deported. And the bottom line is the deportation of this guy would most likely have resulted in his torture and then death. I'm, fairly certain that if you owe the Mexican cartel $30,000 and you inform on them at the U.S. DEA, they would not take kindly to that. But then it went up to the Board of Immigration Appeals, and the Board of Immigration Appeals likewise denied the Convention Against Torture, basically saying the immigration judge made the right decision. Then it went up to the Circuit Court of Appeal, and they actually looked at the facts, and they said, they were tactful, but they basically said, how can an immigration judge make the particular assertions that this person would not be tortured? And then they went on to say that there's lots of case law that says, the treaty itself says that there's more chance than not that you'll get tortured than you should be granted. Well, they said it can't be taken literally. You can't say, okay, if there's a 50.1% chance that you're going to be tortured, that you're granted, but if there's a 49.9% chance you'll be tortured, then it would be denied. The circuit court said that would be a ridiculous outcome. So basically they loosened it up a bit, and they said it just has to be, more likely than not, but no exact percentages. And so, essentially the circuit court also said that the immigration judge's discussion of the fact that government is working to stop the anti-violence and the cartel violence as a reason for denying CAT, the circuit court said that's irrelevant. Whether the government's working for it or not doesn't mean it's not happening, doesn't mean it's not continuing, doesn't mean that in this particular person's case that he would, not be tortured upon return to his country. Now, you and everybody can disagree with the fact that this guy was, in drugs and a drug dealer, no doubt about that. But the United States signed on to a treaty which basically said that the United States will not return people or deport people to their home countries if there's more chance than not they're going to be tortured. It doesn't say, whether they agree if the person's moral character is good or bad or whatever. It doesn't get into that, okay? And because the United States entered into that agreement with many other countries, there's an obligation to follow it, and usually that's at the immigration judge level, but of course if they don't, then it comes to the BIA and then ultimately the Circuit Court, and then if necessary to the U.S. Supreme Court. So a couple lessons we learned from this one. Immigration judges can be wrong, no doubt about it. That's why they let you appeal to the Board of Immigration Appeals, and the BIA can also be wrong, no doubt about it. And so sometimes when you get up to the Circuit Court, it's the first time you're out of the administrative arena and in the judicial arena, and sometimes that's the first real shot you get at winning your case. So don't despair. Definitely there are times where there's a few battles before you can win, but ultimately it's the winning at the end that matters. So if you like the video, click like, subscribe, and also you can give my office a call, give you a consultation, let you know what can be done. More on the coming videos.